But let's talk about the US of A, because coming up in November, and we'll be covering it massively, of course, here on Talk, as you would expect, the Democratic National Convention is this week. I've already seen the Republican one. At the end of the day, we know what's going to happen in November, don't we? Probably Donald Trump is going to win. However, you know, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are still hoping that they're going to be able to get the ticket. Are they? Let's talk to Erol Morkoc and find out from him what's going on. Erol, very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I mean, I must admit, watching Joe Biden in the last couple of hours, you would have thought he was a changed man. He seemed to have been pumped full of something or other to make him sound as though he knew what he was talking about. He made coherent sentences. He didn't drift off. He didn't wander off the stage. He didn't sort of appear to be, as he has often appeared to be, you know, without a clue as to where he even was. What did you make of the speech?
Well, you know, I would love to have been able to come on this show and say Joe Biden had a dignified send-off, that it was still, you know, an American president and somebody we could have all, at least from his perspective, seen where he was going. But you know what? It was really undignified. He doubled down on the lies about the Charlottesville protests. He doubled down on the lies about the losers and suckers comments. He castigated President Trump and his supporters as literal Nazis and made that the bulwark of his explanation for why he ran. And so now his entire legacy is based on passing this off to Kamala Harris and stopping this sort of threat to our democracy, which he doubled down again, that same divisive, hateful rhetoric that got President Trump nearly assassinated. And so, well, maybe that plays to his base a little bit. The fact that he chose to use debunked lies as the sort of the cornerstone for his farewell speech, I think it was disgraceful. And as an American, I was disappointed to see that, because I thought at least I could come here and say he had a dignified send-off. He embarrassed himself. Once again showed what kind of a president he was. And
he referred to Donald Trump as that sucker, which I think in anybody's terms is disrespectful to a man who has been president of the United States of America. Whatever you may think of him, you know, he held a very high office, and you're supposed to respect the office of the president, aren't you? But let's have a look at what Joe Biden also didn't mention or talk about, and it's this breaking news from just a couple of hours ago.
This is a Fox News alert. All new this morning, House Republicans finding President Biden and his family received more than $27 million from foreign individuals and entities since 2014. Lawmakers call it an impeachable conduct.
Impeachable conduct. $27 million somehow funneled to Joe Biden and his family from nefarious foreign entities. I mean, it's almost impossible to believe that he can still sit in the White House.
Well, the man has no shame whatsoever. That family has been grifting the American taxpayer for the last 50 years, basically. Yeah. The Biden family doesn't have a business after this. What they do have is a slush fund called the Biden Family Library that they're going to get to open with the presidential money and pay them all salaries until the end of time. Right. But the Biden family sold access. Everybody knew it. Can they impeach him in the House? Maybe. Will it go through the Senate? No. But it could be a good message to send to somebody who's corrupt to the core. Unlike Joe Biden, unlike Donald Trump, Joe Biden made all his money in politics. Donald Trump is a businessman, made his money out of politics, actually lost money to become president. So you see the contrast between the two ideologies, and it's just a shame to see it, because Joe Biden's a grifting thief.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that in the past, you know, campaign 4 years ago, when Donald Trump was fighting Joe Biden for the White House, he said, you know, how is it possible for a man like Joe Biden, who makes effectively $150,000 a year for 50 years, how does he become a multi-millionaire? And you do have to ask that question, don't you? A lot of people in politics in America become very wealthy as a result of being politicians.
Oh, absolutely. And it seems that there's, you know, they're the ones who actually get to vote on that. They come in, they bring it up. We're going to vote if we can insider trade. We vote yes. So it's getting to be like the collapse of the republic type of behaviors. I mean, you can't have an elite ruling class that has also changed the financial and legal rules for their favor in such a brazen way. People come in, you know, with a net worth of 200 grand and leave with 25 to 35 million dollars down the line. And that's on both sides, you know, on Republican and Democrat sides. The only person who hasn't made money in politics, Donald Trump.
Well, let's have a look at what Donald Trump had to say about the Harris-Walz ticket.
You know, he said, we're weird. That JD and I are weird. I think we're extremely normal people, like you, exactly like. He's weird. Did you ever see him go on the stage and go like crazy? It's like between his movement and her laugh, there's a lot of craziness. I'd say a step further than weird. Weird is a nice word by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's obviously had to reconsider his campaigning and the attacks he's going to make on Kamala Harris, because obviously it's a bit more difficult, I suppose, to campaign against her than it was against Joe Biden. I presume he's going to pick up on that as we get towards September.
Yeah, I think so. I think he has to find a footing that allows him to use his traditional sort of fun nickname culture with you know, somebody who has a lot of let's go with protections from any sort of jokes. So I think Comrade Kamala kind of is kind of one of his better ones. He certainly has had to contend with a lot of change to the campaign, like you mentioned. I mean, it isn't the same type of candidate. You can't really go after them for their glaring errors. You have to tie them to the actual event. So I think Donald Trump has to, you know, rise above a little bit of the initial let's go with intention of some of these campaigns and find something that sticks. And I really think Comrade Kamala is going to be where he goes with this, because it does seem to encapsulate her policies of price fixing and, you know, these sort of very liberal ideologies that aren't going to take our nation anywhere.
No, absolutely right. Let's have a look finally at Joe Biden talking about how he's made mistakes.
I made a lot of mistakes in my career, but I gave my best to you. For 50 years, like many of you, I've given my heart and soul to our nation. And I've been blessed a million times in return with the support of the American people. I've either been too young to be in the Senate because I wasn't 30 yet, and too old to stay as president.
Yeah, and it's not just, of course, the American people that he's been supported by. Let's go to Fox News again for that breaking story.
This is a Fox News alert. All new this morning, House Republicans finding President Biden and his family received more than $27 million from foreign individuals and entities since 2014. Lawmakers call it an impeachable conduct.
Impeachable conduct. Yeah, there we are. Errol, just to end up, Joe's now going to disappear off the stage. He's not going to be seen, I don't think, at the Democratic National Convention for the rest of the week. He's supposedly going on holiday with his wife, Jill. There was a lot of rumours that he might actually hand over the baton of the presidency to Kamala so that she could fight Donald Trump as the incumbent. What are you hearing about that?
Well, there's been some rumblings. I think that ultimately she might not want that, because it would imply that she is fully inheriting the sort of disasters of that presidency. Yeah. Well, it could be kind of maybe play to some of the base or whatnot. It actually might improve Kamala's chances of at least positioning herself as an underdog. But I have heard those sort of rumblings. I don't think it will happen, though.
Okay, interesting. Errol, I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Thank you very much indeed. Erol Morkoc there, Republicans Overseas.